Out of the ruins, out from the wreckage. Can't make the same mistake this time. We are the children, the last generation. We are the ones that they left behind. And I wonder, when are we ever going to change? Living under fear till nothing else remains. We don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. All we want is life beyond Thunderdome. These were the words of Tina Turner. And while she is one of our wisest prophets, there is one hero we can all agree on, and that hero is Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. Today on Neighborhood Comics Convo, we're chatting with Indie Island icon Jamie Jones.
Hi. Do you know Mad Max is my favorite movie franchise of all time?
I did not know that. I did not know that at all. And first technical glitch, here it goes. When I do it again, Indie Island icon Jamie Jones, and then the intro is going to play.
Okay, great.
I messed it up again. All right. That live button is freaking me out. Indie Island icon Jamie Jones.
Need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented. It's a social validation feedback loop.
Swipe right if you love me, and I'll hold you tight. Never sign off of me, don't unsubscribe. Stay with me surely through woke diatribe. Digital.
Jamie Jones, welcome to the conversation, my friend. It's wonderful to see your beautiful face.
Good to see you, Lee.
You are coming to us from today from a most cherished location. We've had people joining on their cell phones. We've had people in their home offices. And today you are someplace that may be even more special. Tell the folks where you are tonight.
I am currently in my childhood bedroom. I have been here for a month or so now, making comics. There's nothing like being a 34-year-old man making comics in your childhood bedroom. And we know it's true because I have, just for you, for this occasion. I found my
Legion 89, number Legion 89, one.
Number one. I've got the entire run behind me. Yeah, that's a run that's very near and dear to my heart.
That's really beautiful, Jamie. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that your love for the Legion is always very inspiring, and your appreciation of some of those later 80s, early 90s runs that I feel like a lot of people don't really give a lot of respect to is always kind of fun. Is that just a nostalgia thing for you with those issues, or is there something more than that?
No. So I don't think I started reading Legion of Superheroes. I didn't start reading comic books really until I was 17, and wanted nothing to do with superheroes. And I was reading Fables and The Goon and Sandman, and there was a run of Justice Society of America that Bill Willingham was writing after Jeff Johns got off, and I started picking up issues of Justice Society because of Bill Willingham, and immediately fell in love with it. And that spun into, I think the first Legion story I read was the Mark Waid, Barry Kitson run, the three boot, as it's called in the meta. But so I read that and fell in love with the Legion of Superheroes. And then that spawned into me finding a bunch of Legion of Superheroes books at like a back issue sale at the comic shop. And then that spun into Barry Kitson draws Legion 89. So that spun into me finding Legion 89 and the entire run all at once. So I think I picked it up for like $20. It was like super, super cheap. It was one of those, we need to clear the warehouse sales.
I know those very well. And
yeah, I have participated.
Yeah, and it is funny how just the environment of media and characters and even writers and artists and publishers, as I was going through a ton of sets today, how these different things ebb and flow, and how they have not been able to effectively restart the Legion in 20 years. I mean, there have just, I know you do, and we're not going to waste it here because you need to get that in the hands of somebody who can actually make it happen and be a surprise for people. But it is super strange to me that it was such a popular book back in Adventure, and when those heroes were coming up, and Superboy joining the team, and then it expanding and changing, and Supergirl being on the team and everything else, that it was a top-selling book. It was top talent on this book.
It's amazing. 2 issues were coming out a month, right? Like they had 2 different teams, similar to X-Men, right? You had Uncanny X-Men, you had the regular X-Men, and you had 2 superhero teams of Legion of Superheroes, which wild to me that could ever exist. I think DC has a real problem with not knowing how to sell to children anymore, and how to write children characters. Even the teenage characters, where's Teen Titans now? I know Titans are there. For a little bit they were trying to make Titans the new Justice League, but did that work? I don't think so. So I think there's a real misstep in kind of the fun of those characters. We've made everyone, addled drug addicts, and
I mean, Speedy led the way with that, but
Speedy did lead the way, and that's his entire personality now.
That is all he's ever will be. And I think specifically you're kind of speaking to the idea of an all ages book that exists in the greater continuity of things, because, there are the Teen Titans Go books. There are all of these, the Crypto Summer Spectacular and all the fun animal books that they do put out for younger readers, but they don't necessarily bridge that gap of getting young reader kids into whatever the greater DCU is. And in a way I understand, because you don't need that kids book in the big summer crossover where they're fighting nightmare demons. But at the same time, where is the on-ramp?
I think, I think people have forgotten what it was like to be a kid. And I remember very vividly not wanting to pick up the kid version of Spider-Man or the kid version of the X-Men. I wanted to read the actual book. And this was back when books were doing ratings, right? This is the early 2000s when ratings were book things. And the only saving grace was Peter David was writing the Marvel Adventures Hulk book, and it was fantastic. And but everything else was just vastly unapproachable. And so
ratings are still there, mom and dads listening. So you got to look by the barcode. Got to look by. It's not a big PG or an A or anything like that anymore. Because A was super confusing, because is that adult? No, it was like I don't know. I don't even know what it stood for, but it was an all ages probably. But, by the barcode, it'll say teen plus, all ages, or mature for most publishers. Those are the kind of the words that they use. And I feel like that makes sense. Let's not dumb it down. Teen plus. Too. Yeah. I just tell parents teen plus is more realistic world violence. Teen is superhero violence. We're throwing people through a wall, but there's no blood, that sort of thing. And for the most part, that sticks pretty well on most books, but parents do not understand why Deadpool is mature. And that's always a fun, my job is very fun to tell parents why.
It's a weird thing. Deadpool, famously an R-rated movie, right? That one's pretty easy to.
Kids love him though. Kids think he's great.
Little girls dress up like Harley Quinn.
Speaking of heroes, I wanted to make sure we talked tonight a little bit. I had Tao on the show last episode talking about DCAS, the Duval Comic and Zines Fest. And DCAS down in Jacksonville is almost always the same weekend as Heroes Con. So coming out of that weekend, I wanted to make sure I talked to a couple of different people who had the chance to be at one or the other. And when it comes to Heroes, I could think of no one better to talk to than you, because you have a ton of experience with that festival. And as that festival, as a part of that festival, and being an independent comic artist, the cool thing for me about Heroes is always that it is one of the last large conventions that is focused on comics and not the wider ephemera of culture that comics influences. So the celebrities there are artists and writers, and not kind of littered with some of the other things that you get at other cons, which are great. Those get people in the door. Maybe that exposes them to something new. But when you go to Heroes Con, you know you're going to be there with people who love comic books. So how did you get introduced to Heroes Con?
Yeah. Wow. So I was the in-house artist for a comic shop in Tampa, Florida, that is no longer exists. It was called Heroes Haven, and they, as part of my in-house artistness, would bring me to conventions. This was 11 years ago that I did my first Heroes Con. It was the first big convention I ever did, and I had a table and had Artist Alley passes and all of that stuff, and it blew my mind. I had gone to MegaCon in Orlando, but MegaCon famously more in the ephemera side. And to go to a convention where, one, they had like Indie Island, right? Kind of gave me permission, especially as a new upcoming creator, just starting off, permission to do that. Like, that was something to aspire to print your own books and then have it be featured in the Artist Alley section, or the Indie Island section of Artist Alley. And it's like right in the middle of the show. Like, they really make you feel special. Now they have like the really famous people over on one side, and then you have the rest of Artist Alley, and then you have still kind of in the middle when you walk into the show, Indie Island's there. But like your John Romita Jr.'s and your Mark Buckingham's are kind of like sequestered in this other area. I think mainly for lines. So my first show was 11 years ago. What is that? Whatever that is. I'm 34 now. I was 23 when I did my first Heroes Con.
And at that point, Jamie is really well known for publishing his series, The Baboon. Also, there is the new magazine Spacal, which is not that new anymore, but is out through issue 4 at the time of this recording. And what were you working on at that time? Had you already developed The Baboon at that point, or
no? Oh no, what was I working on? I had my first store exclusive cover come out. I did Solar Man of the Atom, which was a book that Frank Barberi wrote, and he was at the show, and when I went there, he and his partner were. She had a table right next to him, and she was not using because she didn't want it. And Frank and Lauren invited me to sit next to them, so I got to move my table from kind of the outskirts of where you start at the show, and you kind of move into the Indie Island area. And I got to sit over in the Indie Island area with Frank, and formed what is now one of my closest relationships in comics is with Frank. So yeah, that was really kind of incredible. It was just a kind of happen chance. I had done one published work, and then at that show, Frank gave me my first published interior work, which was in Five Ghost, which at the time was my favorite comic coming out. So it was really cool and really special.
Well, you mentioned the kind of coming from the outskirts and moving into Indie Island, and I think that is most people's experience, depending on exactly when they're starting out and when they're applying to be a part of a show like this. And once you are kind of in, that's kind of a big deal. Like once you are an indie island artist, and it kind of, not that anything in life is ever guaranteed, but you do have perhaps more of an entree into returning to that spot the next year, and building and growing your audience and your commissions list and all of those things that go into it. As someone who I feel like is a really, really strong tabler, people, as someone who has an aesthetic, an idea, a concept of how they present themselves at conventions, what is it for you about Heroes as a artist, as a tabler, as someone who is going to make money, expand their profile? What is it about that aspect of the show that gets you excited year after year?
Every artist, every creator that goes to Heroes Con calls it homecoming. Like they're like, oh, it's comic book homecoming. We all get to see our friends every year. And that is true, and is kind of expands across the table, right? The people who run the show are also very involved with the creators that are there. I can, like, if I need something, they respond very quickly. And that's to everybody, but now that I've been doing the show for, over a decade, it's doubly so. And everyone there kind of treats you, there's a respect part. You're met with the same kind of respect I was met 11 years ago is the same respect I get now. And the people who are there, the people who are running the show, more than just the people who are going to the show, your patrons, are excited to see you every year. And I think that's what gets the people who are tabling excited about the show is the fact that, oh, cool, I get to see Seth and Carla again. I get to see Trey Alexander, who runs the art auction. I've become really close with Trey and his family. For instance, this year, Trey and his partner just adopted a little boy who I hadn't met yet, and Trey just came up to my table. I was in the middle of a commission, talking to somebody, and he goes, "Put your pencils down, Jamie. You got to come meet a child." And I was like, "Great." It's familial. There's a lot of love in the room, and I think that's what makes Heroes. It's a great place to try out something because you're not just meeting it with sales. You're meeting it with kind of a built-in audience, kind of a built-in support system. So I think I launched Spacow 1 last year kind of at the show. And this year now coming in with four issues. I bagged all 4 issues together, put a sketch in it, and those sold out on the first day. So it was that kind of thing builds, and then they promote your own work. The show promotes your work. It's one of these places, it's one of these shows that's really unique, especially the size that it is. It's real easy to get that kind of relationship with, say, Spice in Savannah, right? I've been to Avery's house. That's a very different relationship, or with Kate and Meredith, who run Savage, right? These are people who I've known for so long. But with Heroes, at the size that they're doing it, to still have that kind of connection one-on-one with the people is definitely the reason to go to the show for continual years, right? I'll never skip Heroes.
Yeah, that's really inspiring as someone who tries to do things, to put on things, and to foster community. When you have people who have been doing it at such a high level for so long, that is always a really, really, a huge influence, and somebody to really try to emulate that. You touched really briefly on the patrons, the people coming in, and of course that great sales feeling when you move those packages with the sketches. I felt like the audience, the patrons, the people coming in to the show are a different type of audience. They're on the whole a very comic literate audience that, we all have our own things that we like and that sort of thing. But in general, to me, it felt like there was much more of a willingness to go to Indie Island and take a chance on things and things like that. Is that what your experience has been?
100%. And pretty much, if somebody comes a year previous, they will stop by your table the next year. So you build up this you build up your audience, you build up your patrons of what you're doing every year, and it only gets bigger and only gets better because they'll people tell people about the things they're reading, or there are these guys, the 11 o'clock comics podcast guys, come to my table and come to my booth every year for the last 5 or 6 years, I think. And I have a very cool relationship with them. There's a couple of those guys that they'll pre-show commission me, and I will tell them what I'm looking for at the convention, just like certain books, or I was like, hey, I'm looking for Little Abners this year, or hey, I'm looking for this. I got a phone call during the show, just on Instagram, and I was like, why is this guy calling me? And he sent a picture, and it was this Gasoline Alley collection, and it was just on a table somewhere. They had one copy left, and he goes, do you need this? And I was like, yeah, pick that up for me. And yeah, sure enough, when he came to pick up his commission, he just had a book and he gave it to me, and I was like, oh, cool, thanks. It was that kind of thing. You build, and they know what you're interested in, and you know what they're interested in, and that Heroes is a show that you have time to talk to people with, and they've expanded a couple times since I've been going to the show, and it kind of is bigger. What it has allowed is wider aisles, so you can I can move around back behind my table, so I'm not scrunched up and I'm not uncomfortable, and then they have more room and they feel like they can stand a little bit. And the tables are pretty big, so it really allows for conversation and allows for you to like talk to people, and it's real easy for you to get in and out of your table, which is maybe sometimes problematic, but has never been for me, because I like to go and talk to people. And pretty much, if you're talking to another cartoonist and they're talking to somebody who is their patron, they're buying all of their books, they will follow you over to your table, right? Because you are of the same, you are men of the cloth, right? It's like, come over to my world, and I will give you my teachings, and they always do, and they always end up buying stuff, which is cool. So,
well, I did mention that you are such a great tabler, but people have to be really eagle-eyed to catch you at conventions because you are up walking around. Like, you will just put up a sign that says back in 5, and it's probably 5 hours, and people will come and like get things and like stick money under the tablecloth or catch you later.
So many times. Yeah. Not this year though. I was busy this year. It was I was pretty hard pressed to leave my table, but that's good problems. Yeah, I like going and talking, and it's an entire industry built on relationships with people. That doesn't. It's not. If you can stay behind your table and you can talk to the same 3 people that you came up with, you drove up with, I don't think that does anything for you professionally. So, yeah, I always try to like bop around and try to make one new connection at least. This year was really easy to stay in my spot though, because like Rich Tomaso was right next to me, and Chris Schweitzer was across from me, and Sarah Meyer and Kara McGee. We were all like in the same area, so it was real easy to not leave, or at least to like keep an eye on my table if somebody was there.
Well, I think that it also says a lot about the patronage and how they get to know you with what you were asked to do commissions of this year, subject matter wise. I feel like people came to you with things that they knew that you specifically would be able to dig into. What were some of those commissions that you did pre-Heroes this year?
I did an Alfred E. Newman. I did a Shemp Howard. which was maybe my favorite commission of all time. I've done, I did a lot of Lord of the Rings characters this year, which was super fun. I posted a Gandalf, and it became like immediately I got like 11 commissions after posting Gandalf for whatever reason. And Rocketeer, there was a group of Scotty Young guys, the Stupid Fresh Mess guys, that I guess they found out about my stuff through Scotty and Megan.
Well, I
which
was
is
going to
great.
say, Scotty is a patron of yours as well from
Yeah, which is
auctions and
wild.
supporter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
great
auction is another great way for people to kind of, I don't know, to participate in the whole scene. And it's a pretty wild scene, that auction, year to year. And your pieces, the last couple of years, I know, have been fully painted, like really, really in that gouache pulp novel style that you have embraced and that you're so good at. And then these themes going back to, I think you started an Alfred E. Newman this year and then pivoted. Is that right? And then
I
did
was
the
doing
Archie
Dragon
one.
Quest this year, and I'm pivoted. Yeah. I did an Alfred E. Newman a couple years ago. There's a bunch of, it's, I tell people who are going to Heroes Con for the first time, or even multiple times, I was like, you have to do an art auction piece. It is what has made my career in so many ways. Again, I'll shout out Trey for taking a chance on a kid who was his first convention, and he put I did a Poison Ivy Marilyn Monroe piece 11 years ago, and he really loved it, so he put it out on he put it on the Saturday night auction, and it changed the air around people coming to me on that Sunday after that, because people had seen a piece and they said, "Oh wow, you did this thing," and that's only gotten bigger every year. I try to do a bigger piece. I also secret of the auction, which not really a secret. The money from the auction goes towards the show, so it's not. So don't spend time doing something that you don't want to do. So what I started doing was just I did a Little Nemo, and then I did a Iron Giant, and then I did a Popeye, and then I did an Alfred E. Newman, and I start only doing things that I find interesting, only doing things that I want to paint for the show. I'm not trying to hit a Galactus is super popular right now, I'm going to paint Galactus. I will never do that. I never want to paint Galactus ever, but that's the kind of thing. It's finding those stuff that fits with what you think will sell, but also only doing something that you want. Last year I did Kermit the Frog. I just wanted to paint Kermit.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing where doing it definitely gets eyes on you. And then if you get one high profile one, which was, 4 years ago, Scotty Young bought my Popeye painting. That really changed so much for me and kind of the way people come up to me and ask me for commissions, because then it became, oh, this is the guy who draws Popeye. And then it became, well, what does this guy do? And then it was pulp stuff. So now I get the Rocketeer and Conan and that kind of stuff, which is right down the middle for me. That is this kind of stuff that I want to draw. So it's never hard.
So participating in the auction is a great bit of new heroes tip, insider info for people that may not have tabled there before and are going in. What other advice would you have for someone who is either trying to get in for the first time, because it's not the easiest show to get into? And, we all just have to realize that if it's not your turn, it will hopefully be your turn another time. But say you're trying to break into Heroes, or you've got one of those outskirt tables, in addition to participating in the auction, what else can you really do to make the most of your time there?
How many books? If you're going in, HeroesCon is a great book show. If you're not doing a bunch of commissions, it's a great commission show as well. But if you have a bunch of books, that's an easier sell. just off the bat, right? It's an impulse buy. Commissions are sometimes a little heftier price point, and it will take you longer to do. So to like make your money back, having enough product to sell, and having that kind of easy, people can flip through books, they can see it, display vertically. We all want to be Michel Fiffe, who can just like lay his product on his table and people will come up and buy things from him. Or yeah, like, but having a display that goes up helps. Making it look like you have a ton of books also helps. I have now a giant trunk that I have that has all of my product in a shelf. It looks like a bookstore, so people are able to go up and they're programmed to pick a book off of the bookshelf and flip through it. So having that on the shelf, on my table, people just will go up and pick a book up and start flipping through it. And about 8 times out of 10, they will buy that book, which is great.
So have a diversity of actual physical product, very good, actual comics, because people going to the show are people that love comics. And I love seeing everybody's post Heroes Con haul that they post online, the big spread of books that people end up coming home with. Participating in the auction, what other types of participation opportunities are there to either meet and mingle with other patrons that are there or other creators? Are there other opportunities to get together that are like structured or loose, or how would that work?
Yeah, I mean, there's always BarCon, right? The convention at the bar after the convention. There's a drink and draw event on Friday nights, and that's always great. That auction goes towards Parkinson's disease help. That's the Team Cul-de-sac, which is what a great comic Cul-de-sac is. Team Cul-de-sac is doing really great things. They partner with the Michael J. Fox Association. I'm not entirely. There's multiple associations for Parkinson's, but I think they partner with that one particularly. Yeah, it's great. That's a great place to mingle, to hang out. The art auction is a great place to mingle and hang out. It's a huge show, so it's that's also a great place to hang out and mingle, is at the show. Don't be afraid to walk away from your table. The amount of sales you're going to miss out on is not directly proportional to you making a good connection with somebody. And I guess the other thing with Heroes is you're kind of on the same level as everybody else, even if you're just starting off or you've got somebody who's, super famous. They will stick you next to super famous people. A few years ago, I was next to Jerry Ordway. Why? Why was I next to Jerry Ordway? I had no reason to be. And then the more you go, and the more that Carla and Seth kind of recognize what you do and who you are, and they'll start putting you next to people who they think you should be friends with. That's a huge talk to your table mates, talk to the people next to you, form those relationships, because that's what will they're really good at figuring out personalities. And that's why I'm friends with Amanda Semler, is because they stuck us next to each other at a convention one year. Same with Pat Rooks. These are people who are kind of my ride or die comics people. But they'll stick you next to those people because they think you're doing not even similar things, but personality-wise, their personalities are similar, and that's super cool.
Charlotte, also a great city, a world-class city, a super fun city to visit, a lot going on there. Of course, great comic shops, including Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, which obviously they're the force behind Heroes Con, as well as so many other stores in the greater Charlotte, Greensboro, Triad kind of area of North Carolina. You can really make, as a fan traveling to Heroes Con, you can really make that a long weekend get a ton out of the event itself, and then spend a couple of buffer days just visiting all the stores. And I've done that more than once. So highly recommend going to Heroes Con if you have not been. If you love comic books, and I would assume if you're listening to stuff like us ramble, you probably like them okay. So definitely check out Heroes Con. If you are an artist or a writer or involved on that creative side of comics, look into tabling and having a presence there, because I really don't think you're going to find a more receptive, eager audience to hear your pitch, to pick up your story, to give it a shot. And those are the people who then go back to their hometowns, go back to their stores, go back to their communities and talk you up. And so should that occasion happen where you get a book that's out for solicitation, they're like, oh, this is the dude from Heroes Con.
Yeah, that's a major point for Heroes. It's not the biggest show for meeting editors at other publishers, but it is one of the best shows that I have found with actually getting readers, and having your readers. They are the readers that pester the comic shops to get your books into their stores, and that's a major thing for that show in particular. It's a big reader heavy show.
And the creator networking, always huge, because you never can tell when an opportunity comes along that somebody can't take for whatever reason, but because they know you, they know your work, they know your attitude, they might be more willing to throw your name in the ring for that project if they think you're a good fit. And how else are they going to know that?
Yeah, attitude is everything. And especially at a show like Heroes, where it's real easy to show who you are and kind of be yourself, or the version of yourself that you want people to accept. But it's, I think I recognized who I was as a creator at that show. I remember specifically talking to an editor at DC and them telling me they didn't have anything for me. They didn't know where they would put me. And the next day I walked into the show and I went up to a couple of creators. It was Michel Fife and whoever he was talking to at the time. And I was like, I'm done doing sample pages for books. I'm just going to start self-publishing my own stuff. And Fife said, when you do, send it to me and I'll do whatever I can. Right? Like, that's the kind of community that show builds, but also promotes. And that's, the people there want you to succeed. I think sometimes when you do conventions, a lot of conventions, and one show is really great and one show's not really great, you think, well, this show doesn't want me to succeed, or what did they do wrong? But sometimes it's just you didn't reach out to the right people to make that show be what that show needs to be for you. I know a lot of people, specifically for Heroes, who don't count. It's the only show that they don't check their profits at, because they don't want the show to be ruined for them, right? Because I've also hung out with a bunch of guys who will every day will go home and they'll count how much money they made, and it can put them in a really bad mood for the next day. And if you're doing a show for 3 days straight, you don't want to be in a bad mood on Friday.
I see that a lot. And in the age of social media too, just I don't know. I know we all have bad days, but man, put on a happy face, get on out there. You're committed. You're in it now. You're really not going to make any money if you don't show up. So
right, yeah. There's a lot of foibles, I think, that we take things personally, right? We're artists at heart, as much as I hate having to say that, but we want people to like what we make. Why else would we make it? And it can really get in your head, and it projects. You can walk by a guy's table and you can tell if he's not having a good day. You're not going to sell anything. It's only going to get harder for you to make the sale, to make the connection, just to be open enough to talk to the person next to you. Don't
let's
close off.
transition. I'm going to cut you off. Well, let's transition from one type of community to another. That's our transition music.
That's great.
I'm getting really good at doing things like making transitions because I say, speaking of, and then I go, that's the transition music.
Yeah.
And then we say, we're going to transition now to another community that you are working with and that you're a part of. And this is Pulp. Pulp is a distribution cooperative of artists and creators who have come together. They're independent, self-published creators who are using the Pulp concept, platform, idea to market everyone in this cooperative's work and to try to make it easier and more efficient to get your work into brick and mortar comic shops. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind Pulp.
Okay. So it's a bunch of people, a bunch of creators who are sitting on a bunch of books. We all did Kickstarters. We all ordered way too much product and needed to move that product. And we're looking at trying to figure out how to get distribution at a Diamond or a Lunar or something like that. At one of these distribution channels. It's really hard, near impossible, to get distribution as a single entity at one of these distributors. Even if you are a company, even if you are publishing multiple books, they don't like the idea of having one person selling their books through the distributor. So we came together and thought, let's see if we act as a publisher. If we have this kind of shell publisher, can we get all of our books into a distributor if we're publishing multiple copies of books? In those discussions, we found that Diamond closed. We found that Diamond closed. Diamond filed for bankruptcy, and we went, no, what are we doing now? So we had to find a new way of doing it. And one of the conversations that we had as a group, the founders of the group went, can we just do it ourselves? Can we do and fulfill distribution? Some of the boys live in Illinois and they have houses and they had extra rooms. And so we have a warehouse place in Illinois that we ship all of our books to, and then they are in charge of shipping books out from there. And that was kind of the inception, was just like, we have to do something, because doing it yourself is hard. Promotion is hard, even if you're good at it. Instagram is hard. I am not good at Instagram. Thank God we have Matt King in the group, who is just like constantly posting and constantly... He must have things scheduled out weeks in advance, because they're coming out and they're coming fast. But he's great at it, and it has a vibe and of a feel of what the Instagram is. I run our Substack, which just started, which is much more manageable for me. I can wrap my head around that. And everyone kind of has their own job in the group, and that has kind of taken away the burden. Also, PR is expensive, right? Hiring a PR firm is cost prohibitive for one person. You get 13 people pitching in, it becomes a lot more manageable. And if you advertise as a publisher, right, it's not so weird. It's not like, hey, here's a collective of people who have just like thrown money to a publisher, to a PR person for seemingly no reason. We were in Publishers Weekly recently.
Yeah, you guys have gotten some really good, not just industry press, but wider press well.
That was something that we were kind of really adamant about, was figuring out a way to not only get into comic shops, but also how can we find distribution into record stores? How, any of the alt culture world is kind of what we're looking at. That being said, it's easier to do if we can throw around Publishers Weekly, right? Like people actually listen, moms listen, and that's
that's your audience. I'm familiar with a lot of your product, and yes, moms for the wider group, moms are definitely the target audience.
Moms
for
are
these books.
Moms are the target audience. Yeah, it's one of those things too where it's like just being able to say we like. There's an article in Publishers Weekly.
I've seen it.
My girlfriend's parents were like, "Oh, that's ooh, makes you feel good."
That was worth the publicist. Yes,
it was worth the publicist. Yeah.
Other than just being friendly with each other, and I'm sure knowing each other from conventions and online, and just being general fans of each other's work. As a unit, do you think that there is a cohesiveness or a unifying character to all of the creators that you're presenting?
Yeah. Oh, and it's grown a lot in the last several times. What had happened originally when we all got together, it was like, here's a bunch of guys who have been told that we're too indie for mainstream, we're too mainstream for indie. And that was kind of the cohesiveness of the group. Then people like Corinne Halbert, who does Acid Nun, was talked about like, oh, her name was floated around, and we were like, oh, is she interested in this? And then we were like, she is. She's down. Okay, cool. She's got a bigger name than us. And so we brought in some people who are more on the Fantagraphics side of it. I honestly now I think I am the sore thumb in the group. I think I stick out a little bit. For better or for worse, I'm doing the kids books, and it's really interesting, I think, to see the types of books that are coming out through it, and kind of seeing what's coming down the pipeline. There are some people who have not been announced, their books are going to be coming out through Pulp that it's super cool. And names, they like the fact that we could fulfill distribution for them, and they don't have to use backer kit, right? That's another thing, which is another just cost on top of stuff. So if they can buy the books on Kickstarter, fund the books, send us the books, and then we can ship them out using their funds that have been allocated, you will end up pocketing a little bit more of that money than you would if you had to use a backer kit or some other third-party distribution.
Nobody gets into this to put stuff into boxes and make 30 trips a week to the post office. So the fact that you're willing to take that sort of stuff on is huge. I mean, that is not the glamorous side of self-publishing, or if there is a glamorous side, that's not the glamorous side of it at all. It's not the glamorous side of running a brick and mortar store or an online store. I'm sure it's just part of life in the world that we live in. And we just are grateful that our books are going someplace.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird things when you get into the self-publishing side that you don't think about when you're just sitting making your books. I recently just had a big problem with printing costs going up exponentially. And then I, took a couple days and just boohooed to myself, and then woke up one morning and was like, all right, I got to figure this out. And within about a week, I kind of figured out a new format for the book that it actually becomes profitable again.
And we could dig into that for a minute. You've got it broken down on your Substack. Bowtie Press is the name at Substack. And you did a cost analysis on Spacow, your magazine, which is it's a regular magazine format, right? It's 8.5 by 11. So it's double sized. Yeah. So when you're printing on standard sizes, for those folks who don't know, it is less expensive than if you're doing a custom size or even like a traditional comic trim size. It's actually a really weird non-standard size. So publishing something in a magazine format is already helping you price-wise.
Yes.
Jamie also does the extra step of getting the book shipped to him and in flat format and doing the stapling and assembling himself. So he's already doing things to save money. But you were saying this, as the magazine has grown, there are more pages, it's full color. You're not able to keep it at a price point that you feel like retailers can pay our traditional wholesale price and then put it out. So you did some brainstorming.
Yeah, it happened. So I printed the fourth issue, and it was the exact same way I printed all the other issues. It was a little more expensive, but not enough for me to really change my mind on. And I sold out of Spacao 4 at HeroesCon, my initial print run, and went to go reorder, and it was about $10 a book. I sell the book for $15. And the way I work with Spacao is printing smaller quantities because I am binding it myself, and just because it's I have a limited space and I have limited time to really dedicate to 1,000 copies of a book. Having a smaller print count is the way the way I do it right now. That could change in the future, but currently that's how it works. So $10 a book. If it retails at $15, it wholesales at $7.50. I am now losing $2.50 every issue. And that was a problem. I was like, okay, this book doesn't work anymore. And then I looked at reprinting issue 1, which is 32 pages. The book has grown to 48 pages. And that ended up being just shy of $6 an issue. So I don't know what happened in the last couple of weeks, really, since from printing issue 4 to now, but the price of ink seems to have gone up. It's not necessarily the price of paper, but it is the price of ink, which seems odd to me. So I have been reformatting the book to be primarily black and white, and that has shot the book down to like $2.66 an issue, which is right where I need it to be.
That's amazing. So many printers now, because they're using digital presses for everything, just charge the flat amount. They don't care if it's color or black and white. So by going to somebody who is maybe more of a traditional printer, whether it's an offset system or something where they're interchanging and they're not using the same ink bed for everything, that definitely seems to be the way to go. I've been processing a ton of late 80s, early 90s miniseries from like Apple Comics and First and a bunch of places that never published more than one comic. And those are, of course, they're all black and white. They're all on that wonderful, wonderful garbage newsprint that you used to be able to print on. And they're so delightful. And you showed me some of or I believe you posted on your Substack, some comparison pictures with some of the work. And a lot of it, you were just using a spot color, and now you're using it more of a wash, and it didn't take away anything.
I, a while ago, started making sure everything looked good in black and white, and kind of stepped away from doing things in color until I got to the coloring step. And that has really saved me for this entire process. I was shocked at how the Baboon Daily Strip, which I run in Spacao, looks in black and white. I think it looks better in black and white than it does with the spot blue. And some of the Wizard Cowboy stuff looks so, it's clean. The pure black and white sells it. I don't know, it feels like it gives it a little bit of legitimacy to it. I don't know why, but what's great too about the printer that I use and being able to get everything shipped to me flat is I can still have color inserts. And so like some pages it's a lot of math and making sure pages are right, but I'm able to make some of the pages that are supposed to be in color can still be in color if everything else is in black and white.
Well, you can do those juicy swimsuit centerfolds. Those are easy because that just
that's a real easy thing to do. And get ready for more swimsuit centerfolds in Spickow moving forward. Issue 6 is Oops All Mark Twain. So we're gonna have a real sexy swimsuit Mark Twain in issue 6. It's what the people want. It's what the people
exactly.
they've been asking. You know, Ron Chernow just put out a biography, and we want to know what Mark Twain looks like in a swimsuit.
And I gotta say, I want to thank our audience for being so quiet for most of the show. I mean, just when they get excited, though, you cannot, stop them. The screams at Mark Twain and swimsuit. It's a lot. It's a lot. You mentioned we're in your childhood bedroom, and yes. For those of you not watching on YouTube or on Substack or anything right now and just listening to the audio, I'm so sorry. But can we turn your camera back and see Shaggy on the wall again?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shaggy and Scooby. So you painted that on your wall, or is that a decal? Or
I have on all of the walls of my bedroom. They're all different colors, and they have just Hanna-Barbera cartoons painted all over the walls.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's the best.
One thing that we've talked on the podcast a lot about the last couple of weeks have been about the Savannah community, which you were a very, very, very large part of, and you always will be in spirit, but you've recently moved, and you'll be moving again to the Pennsylvania area soon, Philadelphia-ish.
Yep.
And so I wanted to touch base a little bit on developing a creative community. So Tao and I talked about this last time. We, of course, gave you lots of flowers for Drink and Draw, which you gleefully turned into a real institution in Savannah where people were able to come out and meet other people that were at lots of different phases in their illustration career, or their writing career, or their animation career, or whatever other creative endeavor they were in, and form this real symbiotic community that not only got together on those Wednesday nights, but stayed in touch throughout the week. They formed their own little pods and creative groups off of it. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful tool for people to grow as artists, as people, as speakers, as presenters, all the different facets of what you do as a creative person. So if someone is looking to start something like that where they live, so they're an artist or a writer or a creative person, and they want to network in a more informal kind of situation and don't really know where to start, what kind of things would you suggest that they look into?
If they want to start something, if it's a, ground up operation, finding out who is in your area, what kind of creators are in your area, friends who are also just want to meet up. I was a part of an artist Drink and Draw group in Tampa and St. Pete before I came up to Savannah, and we were just a text thread, right? We would just be, hey, we're going to go meet at this bar. Everyone bring your stuff, and we'll go hang out for a little while, a couple hours, and then part ways. But if you want to make an event, finding a space that you can continually use, you're going to want to, at some point, you're going to say to yourself, if we move this, we can help other businesses, and we can go and support other people. Having it in one place is kind of the key, was the key to this event working, I think, as well as it did. Everyone knew it was happening. It happened regularly. It happened twice a month. We never missed one. I think I only postponed one once, and that was because another community event was hosting a Drink and Draw, and I was like, hey, it's going to be Thursday. I'll be at the one on Thursday, so go and hang out. But and that was once in 3.5 years, right, of me running that event. So having a place to be, talk to the people who run the place, talk to the people who own the place. It was real convenient in Savannah to be at White Whale because it's right next door to Neighborhood Comics, right? What day do you want to do it on? Well, Wednesdays there was one of their worst selling days. It's in the middle of the week. Who's going and getting drunk at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday?
And for us, it's New Comic Book Day, right? You know, so it's one of our biggest days of the week. So
it worked kind of symbiotically, right? Like, it's knowing where you are and kind of where the void is and trying to fill that void kind of systematically. It goes, okay, they want to host a drink and draw. I think that originally it was like there was an idea, there was a possibility of doing drink and draw at the shop, and there was like, well, there's no space. And luckily there's a bar right next door. Can we do it there? I was helping my buddy Hunter, who is now the bar manager there, was helping him close down shop, and you looked at me and said, do you want to run a drink and draw? And I was like, yeah, sure.
You just look so darn comfortable, and I didn't want you to have to leave.
Yeah.
And you didn't for 3.5 years.
I didn't. Yeah. I was there a lot. And that's the kind of thing where it's you just find... I got very lucky with Drink and Draw. I got very lucky with the Savannah community showing up. But talking about it, word of mouth is good. Just also take your time with stuff. I think a lot of people start something and it doesn't pick up immediately. And then they're like, oh, this isn't working. And so they drop it. Comic books is an effort of belligerence, and so is running a community event. I remember talking to Anthony, who is one of the co-runners of Drink and Draw now, one of the bequeathed, and he and I were talking about it, and he was like, yeah, well, Drink and Draw has been going around. I was like, it was a full year and a half before Anthony walked through to Drink and Draw, and it was not the same event as it was when he walked in, right? A year goes by. You blink. That's another thing. You blink and a year goes by. And then you blink and then 2 years go by. And it changes and evolves, and the group will change, especially with SCAD, kids graduating and moving on and moving out.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Yes.
Little boy blue and the man on the moon. All right.
You have a community that is constantly changing, and you have to kind of play to the audience that you have, and not necessarily keep the same thing that you had at the beginning. At the beginning, it was a bunch of 30-year-olds coming and hanging out, and college professors, and it slowly changed to a younger and younger crowd, and I became the old man in the room, and I think my time of leaving was perfectly timed out too, where it was this kind of new generation coming in, and them taking over. I say taking over sounds like a bad thing, but them having a voice and wanting their voice to be heard and I'm not going to step on that, right? Like it's the people who run it, Gwen and Anthony running it now, fit that vibe more than I fit that vibe, because I'm just this curmudgeon-y old guy who likes comic strips, and you can tell the difference between, like, every week I would bring in books to show, and people would ask me, how did you pick these books? I was like, this is just what I'm reading right now. And the books that Anthony and Gwen are reading are vastly different than the books that I'm choosing to read. So you get a lot more risograph with
wise words on community, wise words on building and creating, and wise words on leaving. And that's where we're going to leave ourselves in this conversation tonight. Jamie Jones, I would love for you to tell everybody how they can find out more about you, find out more about your work, and of course, purchase some Power Pulp for their stores or whatever they've got going on.
Yes, I am Art of Jamie Jones on literally everything. even.com. So you can just put art of Jamie Jones on whatever device you have, and you will find it. PowerPulpComics.com is where you can purchase my books currently. That's where you can also purchase a lot of my friends' books, which is super fun to say. And they will all be shipped together. You can have to pay shipping once and not 5 times. We also have a portal where comic shops can purchase books through that with their wholesale
That's a
pricing.
great point. I was just so focused on the retail side of it. But yes, as a comic reader and consumer, you can just go buy. It's like going to a convention that all these folks are at and picking up the books just like you would at the tables. So yeah, absolutely. It's not just for comic bookstores. It's for anybody who wants to check out this work.
Yeah. We've kind of made it where there's 2 sides to the way the website works. There's the portal side for the retailers. There's the regular side for the readers, for the direct to consumer. We've all been doing direct to consumer for the last several years. So we didn't want to take that away. And like currently, I have no product in my possession for Spacao. They all have it, so you have to buy it from them right now.
Last time I looked, they did not have any.
They just got a new shipment today.
Okay.
I got the text just now that they got the new shipment of stuff. But yeah,
good.
Yep. So,
Jamie Jones, we miss you. I miss you. It's so wonderful to see your face. I feel so honored to have been present in your childhood bedroom for the last hour. And I am looking forward to seeing you again in real life, wherever that may be. Thank you, good sir.
Thank you.
Neighborhood Comics Convo is hosted by me, Lee Heidel, and is a product of Neighborhood Comics, a real-life brick-and-mortar indie comic shop in Savannah, Georgia. If you enjoy the show and want to support us, the best way to do that is to go over to neighborhoodcomics.com. Pick up a book you've been meaning to check out, maybe one we talked about here on the show today. And we really appreciate that support. If life ever brings you to Savannah, be sure to stop in and see us at our main location, which is 1205 Bull Street. Our theme music for the show is provided by the band Ditka. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for participating. And most of all, thank you for being you. See you around the shop, y'all.
Will be urgently discussed in some quarters, but never implemented.